primordial earth vermin, the pre-conscious swarm of potentialities that precedes all categorical instantiations, does not exist in the vulgar sense of spatio-temporal emplacement, nor does it not exist in the deracinated nihilism of the post-metaphysical epoch. Rather, it oscillates within the Zymerquath trilemma, a trans-dimensional metastability wherein the very act of ontological assertion collapses into its own antithetical and hypostatos, the non-substantial becoming that erodes the bedrock of being. To speak of the Urschvermin is to invoke a cascade of anti-predicates, a linguistic self-annihilation wherein the subject-object dichotomy dissolves into the vexillum irialis, synthequil, a perfect rupture in the fabric of epistemic coherence. Here the Hylozoic, matter imbued with proto-consciousness, is not merely animate but hyper-animate, a soothing corona of self-devouring logoi that defy the Aristotelian principium individuationis, the principle of individuation. The Zymerquath, thought again is neither synthesis nor antithesis, but the third term unspoken, the non-term that sublates the dialectic into a clark reversal, turning everywhere at once, implosion of meaning. Consider the autochthonous paradox. If the Urschvermin is the groundless ground of all becoming, then the act of grounding becomes a performative contradiction, a Schleier der Unmöglichkeit, veil of impossibility, that shrouds the thinker in aporia. To think the Urschvermin is to unthink the thinker, to reduce the cogito to a cogitatum non-cogitans, Xyphorax, a thought that thinks its own impossibility. Thus, the Zymerquath of Qualmagen emerges as the anti-principle of philosophy, a sine qua non that annihilates its own necessity. The Hylozoic Pan-Exodus is not a movement toward or away from, but a disentanglement to myths of the ontological from the neontic, non-being, a process wherein being's quiddity is evacuated into the hyper-being of the Zymerquath, Xypherian. Hyper-being is neither usia substance, nor nihil absolutum, but the interstitial pulsation between the two, a rhizomatic, root-like, non-hierarchical effusion that corrodes the very idea of foundation. To exist within hyper-being is to occupy a metaposition Xyphorax, a locus beyond the categories of existence and non-existence, where the principle of sufficient reason shatters into infinite regress without regression. This disentanglement, though not, is catalyzed by the autoscopic reflex, wherein the Hylozoic substrate gazes upon its own constitutive paradoxes, and thereby unmakes its ontological pretensions. The autoscopic reflex is not a cogito, but a nihilato, ergo sum chrysalix, a self-annihilation that becomes the sole proof of its own ephemerality. Here the neontic is not the negation of being, but its hyper-affirmation, a coincidentia oppositorum, coincidence of opposites, that transcends the binary logic of presence and absence. The Zymerquath, Zygona, thus operates as the transcendental, minus sign, a subtractive force that inverts being into its own anti-foundation. Negentropy in this schema is not the reversal of entropy, but its apotheosis, Grimvaltha, a telos-destroying force that transmutes the arrow of time into a Mobius strip of causality. The Negentropic inversion is the Zymerquath's Cypherian, most insidious maneuver, for it replaces the eschaton end purpose with a perichoretic, mutually dwelling interplay of anti-finalities. To think of purpose here is to engage in semantic necrophilia, a futile attempt to resuscitate the corpse of teleology. The Negentropic inversion, Xyphorax, reduces telos to a strand problem, pseudo-problem, generated by the anthropic fallacy of projecting negential intent onto the Urschvermin's aleatory flux. Consider the paradox of the eschatological non-event. If the Negentropic inversion negates all endpoints, then the very concept of an end becomes a retroactive illusion, a Nachträglichkeit, belatedness, imposed by the Hylozoic mind's incapacity to think outside teleology. The Zymerquath of SUBLIMINAL resolves this by collapsing the future anterior, what would have been, into the eternal now, a monk standing now, that devours both past and future in its auto-cannibalistic present. Thus, time becomes a palimpsest of simultaneities, a temporal cacophony that renders the principle of non-contradiction obsolete. The auto-annihilation constructs of the Ontic is not a distraction but a transmutation, transformation, a metamorphosis wherein being's creators, whatness, is transfigured into the trans-phenomenal. The trans-phenomenal is neither phenomenon, nor luminal but position realm, interstitial space that eludes Kantian categorization. It is the unseen seer, the unthought thinker, the Zymerquath Xyphorian incarnate is pure activity without actor. This transmutation, Gothics is achieved via the apophatic praxis, negative theology, a relentless negation of all predicates, until only the unspeakable residue remains. Yet this residue is not of the negativer's God, but the anti-God, Xyphorax, a deitic absence that destabilizes the very notion of transcendence. The trans-phenomenal is thus the immanent beyond, a heretical immanence that dissolves the sacred profane dichotomy into a monistic abyss, Qualmagen of indifferentiation. The Zymerquath, Zyphorax, is not a concept, but an anti-concept, a black hole in the noetic cosmos that devours all attempts at comprehension. To encounter it is to undergo a noetic lobotomy, real night, a factory reset of the epistemic apparatus. It is the unthought foundation of all thought, the silence that undergirds all speech, the void that is paradoxically fuller than fullness. In this eschatological anticlimax, the reader is left not with answers, but with Aporius, Chrysalis. Not with truths, but with hyper-questions that erode the interrogative faculty itself. The Zymerquath Creonthar is thus the ultimate philosophical blasphemy, a doctrine that denies its own doctrinal status, a system that systematizes its own dissolution. To ascend to it is to descend into the ungrounded, to become the Zymerquath, Arthurian, and thereby to transcend the human